Welcome back to Borak Bersama Maybank. Today we're diving into a hot topic, Malaysia's latest sales and service tax revision. To break it all down, we've once again invited Sue Lin, our head of Equities research here in Malaysia. Thanks for joining us again, Sue Lin.
Hello again.
So, all right, let's kick things off with the general overview of the current situation. Could you basically summarize what's the recent announcement on the SST scope revision, which was made by the government?
Sure. So this is something to be expected because it was announced in Budget 2025 that was announced last year or tabled last year in October 2024. The government did say that they were going to expand the scope for taxes given that our tax to GDP is relatively low. In this particular announcement that was made recently, it just added 6 new categories, which included leasing and rental, construction, financial services, private healthcare, education, and beauty services. It also stated a range of SSTs from 6 to 8%, really depending on a lot of the categories. But basically, the government's aim is not to burden the Malaysians too much. So there's quite a fair bit of government aid to be expected, as well as some exemptions. So if you look at essential goods, mainly your key food items, medical devices, as well as education materials, these are largely exempted. And additionally, a 0% sales tax is retained for most basic construction materials as well as agricultural inputs. Now, that said, we do have a long list of exemptions, which is available in our report as well.
Okay, great summary, Sue Lin. So you mentioned the scope of the service tax being expanded to 6 new categories. Could you probably elaborate a little bit on these categories?
Okay, so let's focus into banks, consumer discretionary, consumer staples, healthcare, as well as REITs. And then we'll talk a little later about the property. Now, the first five sectors we mentioned are largely neutral because we believe that there's quite a fair bit of pass-through that these sectors can put it down. It may not be very good for most of us, but in any case, it is a necessary evil. But the impact is expected to be relatively muted. Now, for the property sector, it's a little bit complicated, but we view it negatively. This is actually a drawdown from the impact from the construction sector because the construction sector is, as I mentioned earlier on, is seeing some new elements of taxes for the services side. Unfortunately, while the construction sector companies will not be bearing the brunt of it, it goes to the property sector. That said, the property sector should see some pressure because there's construction services for commercial and industrial buildings will now be subjected to a 6% service tax if the contract value exceeds 1.5 million ringgit per year. Now, most construction contracts have clauses that state that such contracts are subject to review if there's any change in law or if there's a new legislation. So it gives them some leeway. But what this also implies is that contractors will now likely pass through the SST to property developers whose margins will therefore be adversely affected by additional cost. Developers, however, may pass through the cost to the prospective buyers, but it really depends on the demand of the property and the pricing power of their products.
All right, so with that in mind, I guess this all ties back to our top picks and our calls. So any changes that we need to be aware of?
So at the moment, no. We do think that there's still a fair bit of digestion that the market will need to take. There's still a fair bit of run, and also some of the rules have yet to be finalized. The list of exemptions are still being understudied by most of the companies. So stay tuned for that. But for now, no change to our stock picks. This is where you should see in the screen now that will remain in play. Our government is really clearly targeting the relief measures to reduce unintended pressures, so we do not need to rotate out of any names as such.
All right, that's a wrap for today. Aside to the audience, you can catch our latest research report on your Maybank Trade MY app. All you need to do is just head over to the Insights tab and you will be able to find it there. And for those who are looking to trade stocks, structured warrants or futures, you can apply for a CDS or trading account online via the QR code on the screen now. But if you need a personal touch, you can also approach our sales representatives and they can help get you started with a trading account. With that, we'll catch everyone in the next episode. But until then, this is Najib Hussain signing off.